Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. No one could live without blood pressure. Pressure is needed to pump blood through arteries in order to supply life-sustaining oxygen to the organs of the body. But when the pressure gets too high, a condition called hypertension or high blood pressure, it could be detrimental to the health. According to the World Health Organization in 2013, an estimated 1 billion people had hypertension globally. Research experts say about 9 million people die from raised blood pressure each year. Hypertension usually comes without symptoms. That's why it's called a silent killer. My guest is a consultant cardiologist at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idi Araba, and a fellow of the Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. Dr. Oyewole Kushimo, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Blood pressure rises. It happens to lots of people I know, and then it comes down. At what point do you call it high blood pressure or hypertension?
Okay. Well, as you said correctly, everybody has a blood pressure. Blood pressure is essential to sustain life. And everybody's blood pressure also rises temporarily. If you do exercise, it goes up, you rest, it comes down. But hypertension is when that blood pressure is persistently elevated. So we check it 2, 3, 4 times and it's still elevated. When you're at rest and calm, that's when we refer to it as hypertension. And the cutoff is 140/90. When it's persistently above that level, we refer to it as high blood pressure.
That cutoff used to be 120/80. What happened?
Well, issue of cutoffs, when we refer to blood pressure, we refer to 120/80 is what we call an ideal blood pressure. So we expect that's where we want, you could say that's where we expect it to be. However, at the point in time, researchers always try to agree on at which point in which, if above that point, your risk of having cardiovascular complications is quite significant. So it used to be even 160/90 at a point in time. It was brought down to 140/90.
Lots of people would fail that test.
However, some people might remember in the news last year, the Americans have even brought it lower to 130/80, but that is not yet accepted worldwide. So we'll still go by the 140/90, at least since we're in Nigeria. And so that's the point in which it becomes your risk of having, cardiovascular complications is quite significant.
We know that there are no symptoms most of the time,
yes.
But when there are symptoms, what are they?
Well, yes, especially when the blood pressure is markedly elevated. In some people, they can have headaches, blood vision. They can also have, they can become breathless. And then even if it's quite severe, it can even cause a stroke immediately at that point in time. But these are in really, those are just a few people. Majority of people, blood pressure does not cause symptoms.
You've been harping on cardiovascular complications. I guess that's the main problem when it comes to high blood pressure. That's heart disease.
Yeah.
What are these diseases actually? What's heart disease? Do you have many of them? One?
Okay. Well, when we say cardiovascular, we mean both the heart and the blood vessels. So it's not just the heart only. Hypertension, as I said, affects because you have blood vessels taking blood to different organs, and so a person actually affects different places. But when it's due to a problem of the heart and the blood vessel, we refer to as cardiovascular. So starting from the head even, it can cause a stroke. So persistent blood pressure can predispose you to having your arteries in the brain can burst, and you can lead to a stroke. And then also in the heart, because when your blood pressure is persistently elevated, the heart has to work harder to pump blood out of itself, and because of that, the walls of the heart begin to thicken, and over time the heart becomes a bit weak and all that. We call that heart failure, and that can be associated with things like breathlessness. Your lungs become,
so the heart is not pumping right anymore.
Not pumping exactly enough to meet the demands of the body. Your legs start swelling, your tummy starts swelling, and all that, and you need to be on drugs, and of course to see a specialist for that. And then other parts of the body too, the kidneys can also be affected because
kidneys.
Yeah.
That's not cardiovascular, is it?
It's not cardiovascular direct. Well, yes, it is cardiovascular in the sense that the kidneys actually have small blood vessels that supply it, and so hypertension also causes a problem with the blood vessels within the kidney, and eventually that can lead to to failure. So in a sense, some forms of kidney failure due to hypertension, in that sense, is actually a cardiovascular complication. So cardio means heart, vascular means vessel. So it's not just the heart only. It's actually a problem of the heart and blood vessels. So wherever blood vessels are affected, it also forms part of cardiovascular. Of course, heart attack, let's not forget that. Somebody can have a heart attack because the blood vessels that supply the heart itself can also be affected. And when these are blocked, it causes a heart attack. So cardiovascular is quite a holistic thing. It's not just limited to the heart only.
Let's understand what happens here. Okay, the blood pressure is raised because there's not enough space for the blood to pass through?
Well, it's a combination of two factors. Blood pressure is made up of, one, is actually the force. The heart pumps out blood, and that blood comes out with the force. And so the force in which that blood is impinging on the walls of the vessels is the blood pressure. So first of all, the heart itself pumping a lot of blood out of itself is a factor in raising blood pressure. And also when the vessels become stiff, causing a resistance to that blood flow. So hardening of the vessels, progressive stiffening of the vessels, and not allowing the blood to flow easily, that also contributes to the blood pressure. So it's a component of both the force in which the heart is pumping and also the resistance that these vessels are. Does this
force harden the vessels or wear them out?
Yes, over time, yes, it begins to damage the lining of the vessels. And that now increases, causes different things. For instance,
that's when the plaques settles
exactly
in.
Atherosclerosis, which we call it, plaques begin to build up, cholesterol, fat-laden plaques begin to build up in the vessels, and that can now lead to a stroke in the brain, can lead to a heart attack. It affects the vessels supplying the heart, and also it can also give you reduced supply to your kidneys and also even to your limbs when it causes blockage in big arteries. We call it peripheral vascular disease. It can even lead to amputation.
Tinker with an